What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight With Him podcast. Today's guest is Mr. Jimmy Cheo.
The one and only.
An artist, singer-songwriter, and a man of many, many traits.
Literally, many traits.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much for coming on, man. Yeah. We appreciate your time, and let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Let's tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah. Let's see. Background starts in Anaheim, California, where I was born.
Nice.
I don't know how far back you want to go. Let's see.
As far back as you want.
I grew up in Orange County. I have 5 older brothers.
5?
Yes.
Oh,
5
you're like
older
Mexican.
brothers. And fun fam growing up. I started off. Sorry, a little flake of dust, dusting it away. As far as jumping into music and jumping into what I'm doing today, that really all started really spontaneously back in 2013. I kind of out of the blue picked up music. Before that, I was actually at a Bible college pursuing pastoral work, pastoral ministry, and it was out of the blue that upon doing ministry and that my dad actually, he came down with stuff going on in his heart. It was like a 98% death rate, what he had, something like that. And so he had to go through surgery, and then it was upon him getting the surgery, my family literally camped out we literally slept overnight at UCLA hospital as he was going through the surgery. And I think we maybe illegally we were sleeping in the waiting room. We brought sleeping bags and stuff, but it was on a floor where there was nobody. So we got away with it for some odd days. But in that time, I remember being in that waiting room and thinking, man, I have so much time right now. I was reading my Bible, hanging out. But I really had this desire to pray with music and to worship. And so it was in that moment I remember thinking, I can go home and grab our guitar, but it was this big guitar, and I didn't want to look like a weirdo hauling in this big guitar who was also camping out in the waiting room upstairs. I was like, I don't want to cause a scene right now. So I literally, in that moment, I prayed really simply. I said, God, I would love a ukulele. I was like, a ukulele would be perfect. Size, that'd be awesome. The next day, I kid you not, the very next day, out of the blue, friend calls me up and says, "Hey Jimmy, what are you doing right now?" I said, "I'm at my parents' house, but actually, what's up?" He said, "I'm cleaning out my parents' garage right now. They needed help." He's like, "I got all these instruments. Do you want a guitar or something?" I said, No. I actually have one." He says, "Okay, can I come over?" I said, "Sure." So he comes over, and I open up the door, and he's holding a ukulele. I was like, "Dude, that thing's sick." I didn't even ask him for it. I was like, "That thing's sick." He's like, "Yeah, you can have it." And he hands it to me the very next day. I was like,
crazy.
Whoa. So I have this uke. I was like, "I don't know how to play it. Can you teach me something?" So he teaches me a couple chords. And then I was like, "This is perfect. That's all I need to know." Then I'm back at this waiting room where I have these 2 chords, and I don't even remember what I started singing. I just started singing from my heart, just in prayer to Jesus. I was just going for it. And then out of the blue, just kept playing. Actually, I remember one nurse came. I heard these steps running down the hall, and she knocks on the door. She opens up the waiting room door. She's like, "Are you praising the Lord?" And I said, "Absolutely." She said, "I knew it. I could feel it down the hall." I was like, "That's awesome." So she shuts the door. I think shortly after that, we were kicked out of the waiting room. But that's kind of suddenly after that. My good friend David, he said, "Hey Jimmy, you have something that could bless the community. Would you want to lead on a Sunday?" And my context for music, playing music, leading worship, any of that kind of thing, was all. It was in the context of really no one else around me. So I was like, "Okay, you're gonna have to walk me through how to do that in front of other people." And so had me jump up on a Sunday. Next thing I know, all of a sudden, I'm not just singing other people's songs. I'm writing every single day, and not with a pen and paper. It's just with those 2 chords and these new songs. Fast forward, start recording songs. Fast forward, start collaborating with other artists. Fast forward, it's a lot. It's a lot of my time now. So yeah.
So were you always inspired to want to do music, or was it because you wanted to worship and pray with music that got stirred inside you?
You know what? I've thought through that, and I think when I look back, I think, as a kid, before I even had a relationship with God, before I even had a relationship with Jesus, I think even as a kid, there was a desire in me of like, oh, I would love to do music of some sort. I do remember actually trying to pick up a guitar, trying to learn by a textbook and not being able to do it, trying to have people teach me, but I feel like it was this total left brain thing that wasn't connecting. So then fast forward, I think there was like a tiny spark of a desire, but it didn't fully come alive until that year, which a lot of other things were happening that year that were significant, I think, to the reason that spark turned into a big old flame. But
What kind of things?
Yeah. I'm like, how far do we want to go into this? So
You can go as far as you want, man.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So I had I feel like just a mindset and a complex of, living for people, living, in the fear of people's expectations on me, even as a Christian who loved Jesus, walking with him, reading the Bible, doing the whole thing. I think I still had so much like bound up and locked up in me that was still so afraid of what people thought of me. And therefore, a lot of my decisions, potential career paths were all based on how others were going to respond to my decisions in life, whether it be my parents, my friends, my circle, basically. I was like, what are they going to think of me? And it wasn't until, honestly, this is significant, but in 2013, I was at Bible college, and I was like, all right, I'm going all out. I'm going to pursue pastoral ministry. I'm going to go after this thing. That, I kid you not, during Bible college, I was studying these resources that were so strong. They were just so good, studying things all around the Bible. And I was having trouble completing my assignments because I would just get so rocked to my face on the ground crying out to God. And I said, what better? I don't condone this kind of scholastic or I don't condone this kind of student ethic here, but for me in that time where there was grace for me was I would put down my textbooks and I'd be like, well, if I'm going to be a Christian and I'm going to really fulfill what I'm studying, I should go tell people about what I'm studying. I should go tell people about Jesus right now. I was like, if I want to be a great student of what I'm studying, like a disciple should become like his master. I'm going to go. So I started going out actually onto the streets of where I lived, and I started just telling people about Jesus. It was in those days that fear and a lot of that, like trying to appear a certain way before people, started to shift, started to change. And I had an encounter where I had a friend, just a sweetheart friend, just prayed for me and, just praying for more of God in my life. And I truly believe we can never reach a cap or a limit to the love God has for us. So diving really deep into that, he prays for me. And then soon after that, I remember I was like, well, God, I don't know if I'm going to go back to school anymore. I don't know if I'm going to finish these things that...
At Biola?
No, it was a Bible college, an online one. And I literally got to this place where I was like, all right, I don't know if I'm going to finish school. I don't know if I'm going to go... okay, a little bit more context. I quit a job that I was in to do a full-time internship at a church, in which, and then I was dating somebody. I ended that relationship, and so I had all this open time, and I was going to go full-time ministry with this church in this internship. I get to that church, big church, show up, and I'm like, I'm ready. They said, hey, we actually don't have time for that internship like we thought. We're so sorry. Let's circle back next year and see if we have time for this. So that's where I had all this time on my hands. I went after that, and I I decided in those days, I said, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back. I said to any of it. I say, I'm just going to start where my feet are. I'm going to go. And I actually had a lot of opposition. How far do I want to go into this? Hold on a second. Thinking through this. So, I'm trying to think because I feel like they might watch this if I say this, but they might appreciate it because they were there and they said, yeah, it was great. So
just don't say names.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, okay, people who are super near and dear in my life, basically, that I respected and honored their opinion and everything I was doing. They just fully, saw what I was doing, and they said, Jimmy, we think you're setting yourself up for failure. You're going to fail. Like, if you keep doing this, like, what are you thinking not going back to school? What are you thinking not doing this? What are you thinking? Mm-hmm. And this was like the fear that was messing with me in the background was fully in the foreground. And I remember feeling so convicted by God that what I was doing was what he was calling me to do. And so, but then here are these people that I respect their opinion. I honor everything they say in my life. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? So then I remember I didn't get into an argument. I didn't defend myself. I didn't get into any of that. I just said, all right, like, that's it. See you guys. And then, and then that night I cried. I went to a parking lot and I had a Bible sitting in my car all by myself, crying out to God, wailing. Got my Bible open, and I remember praying, and I said, God, I believe what you're calling me to do is you, but I'm so okay with being deceived, being wrong. If any of that's going on, just call me out. I'm here to listen. I said, otherwise, I really believe I'm not. And I said, I pray that you would show these friends what you showed me. And I pray you would talk to them about this, and then, you would confirm it. The very next day, I'm talking to one of those people, and they said, hey, Jimmy, you ever read the book of Jeremiah? And this is coming from somebody who he never reads his Bible ever, just is collecting dust on the nightstand. He says, you ever read the book of Jeremiah? I said, absolutely. He said, something strange was happening last night. I couldn't go to bed, and as I was trying to fall asleep, I just kept hearing Jeremiah repeating in my head, Jeremiah, Jeremiah. He's like, I had to wake up. I had to get up, grab a Bible, look up Jeremiah. He goes, did you know Jeremiah in the Bible was this young guy called to be God's mouthpiece? It wasn't going to look normal. It was actually going to look weird to society, but still God was calling him to do it. And isn't that crazy? And I said, yeah, I actually knew all that. That's crazy. He says, anyways, we talked about it, and we actually think you're onto something. We like where you're going. We want to support you. We want to back you. And this is the very next day, 180. I was blown away. So that year, it was like confronting that fear head on, and all of a sudden where there was insecurity, this like supernatural security just took over my heart, where I was like, oh my gosh, I get to fully be myself regardless of what anyone thinks.
So does that make you, to play the devil's advocate?
Yeah.
Or the opposite? I don't know. I don't like saying that. Whatever. Does it make you think about like, oh, maybe the people pleasing isn't so bad? Because I still battle with that. And I'm 30. I'm going to turn 36 with 3 kids and a wife. And, damn.
36.
He's just mad because he looks like a baby when he shaves. But yeah, no, I battle with people pleasing all the time. You know, where I do certain things because I want to please this person, or I don't want to let that person down, or whatever, but now you're saying like, hey, because I'm thinking about I want their approval, and now they have a change of heart, because you stuck through it. Because you hear stories all the time where people were like, this person told me I couldn't make it, that person told me I couldn't make it, and I stuck with it. And now that's a very low percentage. Right. But I think it's good to have people in your corner that are concerned, like, hey, what you're doing is 100%. is statistically not the best decision.
100%.
But I think when you have a close relationship with Christ and you feel convicted to do something and you can hear from him, it makes sense for you to pursue those callings and those things. Because like my wife and I, without airing our dirty laundry out there, like my wife and I were talking, she was kind of telling me yesterday, she's like, we do not hear from God. And we're Christian, we go to church every Sunday, we love God, and she's like, we're just not we don't hear from God because of these things. And I'm like, holy crap, you're right. Like, yeah. And it's been hard because we're now talking to a couple that we respect for some guidance. Like, we never did premarital counseling. We got married at the courthouse, like all this stuff, right? But this isn't about me. I'm starting to see things a little bit different, starting to realize these things like, oh, wow, this makes sense. And that's why I was asking you about, like, people pleasing, because I still struggle with it, at 36 years old. Does it make you question, like, hey, maybe that's not wrong when I know that I'm convicted and I know this is from God and this is where God wants me? Because, like you said, that couple or that person did a complete 180.
Yeah. Like, is your question like, do I still wrestle with that people pleasing?
How'd you deal with it?
Yeah.
Or how do you deal with it now?
Whew. Yeah, like I said, I think I've held fast to even specific verses in the Bible that talk about it. It says, like, the fear of man lays a snare, but those who fear the Lord are secure. And so I think for me, in my own one-on-one time, holding on to these verses and studying the Bible super deeply, like not in a head knowledge-y way, but in like a relational knowledge way, where I'm like, dude, God, all right, there's clearly in the Bible you talk about stuff that's like the fear of man versus the fear of the Lord. Okay, wow, when I put those two together, I see such a contrast where when you're living, and this is what helped set me free, and this is what helped keeps me free, is understanding, okay, the fear of man, when you're walking in that, when you're walking the fear of what other people think of you, you're walking in this constant awareness of what other people's thoughts are, and it's playing in your head. And so the fear of the Lord then, the fear of God, is the opposite of that. It's the constant awareness of his thoughts and what he's saying, what he's thinking. And so for me, it wasn't enough to just be like, stop fearing people, stop fearing people, stop fearing people. It's like, at the end of the day, we are going to fear something, and we got to just redirect that fear to God and just say, all right, God, let me be consumed with what you think of me, what your opinions are about me, and let me rest in that. Because I think that's the beauty of what the truth says, of what Jesus says, is when we realize we can fear God in that way, is we know that we have nothing to fear. There's nothing to be afraid of. He fully, if you have faith in Jesus, he fully approves of you. He's fully stoked on you. He's so proud of you. Why? Not because of anything good we've done, but because of everything he's done for us. And in that, my heart starts to rest secure. I might not have all my ducks in a row. I might not be crushing it at life, but I know if I live from that place, things externally will start to line up if I stay rooted and grounded in that. So every day there is a fight. Every day there is this partnership or agreement I have in my heart that says, what am I going to partner with and agree with today? Am I going to partner with what God thinks about me, or am I going to be consumed with what people might think about me? And that's the other funny part, is like, we don't know what's behind the curtains of people's minds and thinking, and at the end of the day, that is just sand to build our lives upon. But when we build our lives upon God, his love for us, what he thinks about us, that every day is, I feel like when I say that, it sounds so elementary and so simple, but I've realized those are the ABC blocks I have to build my life upon. And not only just that one time I made that decision years ago, but it's like every day I have to come back to that decision and go, who am I living for today? Am I living, because at the end of the day too, it's like, if I'm concerned with what people think about me, I'm still going to just be living for me, because I'm living for my image in front of others. But if I'm free from me and I can partner with the truth every single day, then I can rest secured knowing like, dude, no, just, this is simple. God loves me. I'm right where I need to be.
Yeah, well, you're building your foundation on a tightly knit, as you will, concrete versus sand, right? But to rephrase that question and to go back to it, because in my opinion, there is nothing wrong with being a people pleaser if the context of it in your heart is right. A people pleaser does not mean you bend over backwards all day long, every day, just to make people happy. In return, you're miserable. A people pleaser is something that we are called to be as Christians in a different context. We're called to love on people.
Yeah.
Loving on others can be seen as pleasing people. Sure. There's a difference. If you're pleasing people because you feel that you have to for them to approve of you, then obviously that's wrong, right? Exactly. But if you're being a people pleaser in the sense of, I just want to do everything I can to help this person. To help this person because I know God has gifted me with the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. I think that's actually something super powerful. That's good. So I wanted to like clarify that for people that do listen is like, there's nothing wrong with being a people pleaser if your heart and the context is right.
So good.
Because that's what we do, right? Exactly. Like a friend of ours, Jordan, the guy that helped us with all of our POS stuff.
Yeah.
So you know Jordan. Yeah. Jordan, I could say is a people pleaser, right? Yeah. And I don't know I don't think he would take offense to that, but when we took over Cafe Hermosa, that guy was freaking there day in and day out with me. For free, not because he had to, not because we're friends, but because he is a genuine people pleaser.
In a good way.
But in the way of coming from the right posture in his heart of,
love,
dude,
servant-heartedness.
Yeah.
Yes,
he was like, dang, 100%. Dude, you were there too. Like, Ben was struggling. He was trying to do all these things, and he's like, I got nothing going on, so I'm going to help right now.
Totally.
And so I want to just very, 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 very clarify that because there is nothing wrong with being a people pleaser in the context.
Yeah, that's super good. Yeah, that's super good.
So I always like to kind of go back to stuff like that because, like you said, it sounds elementary and it's ABC, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because those 100%. ABCs are the start of everything.
Exactly. And I think when you get free from that unhealthy people pleasing,
for sure,
it sets you free to walk in that really healthy kind of people pleasing.
Yeah, because people pleasing for your own self-image and your own self-worth is different than wanting to just help people because of the gifts that we're given.
Yes.
Significant difference. So for you, Manny, as you're wrestling with that, for as long as I've known you, you've always tried to help people.
Yeah.
So whether you're doing it for a different reason, but for me, in my perspective, you've helped me numerous times with things that you didn't need to.
Yeah.
So there's nothing. I think that's an admirable quality.
So good.
So you can't like take that out of context, because if you stop doing certain things like that, then you're not going to be true to yourself. Yeah. But if you're doing it because you're like, oh dang, I want like the gratitude from Ben. Like, I'm going to show up because I know he needs me, and I want that thank you, and I want him to know, like, he wouldn't have been able to do this without me. Then I would be like, you got to look at yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
But going back to you, Jimmy, sorry.
No, I love that. It's powerful.
I had to go on a little tangent because you got me fired up.
That clarification is good. That clarification's so good.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen it together too, because we've known each other, I think, since 2012 or 13.
Yeah, late 2012, I think. Yeah.
So right as you sounds like you were going through all this life change.
As long as I've been a hidden house, actually, that's pretty wild.
So I feel like I have seen you go through 100%. This journey, and I've said to him over the years, like, bro, what are you doing? And not even in a bad way though, but like a genuine like, when you were getting married and stuff. I was like, how are you gonna provide?
Exactly.
And Jimmy has been. This is one thing Jimmy has, like, a lot of people will come on a show or talk in a conversation and just talk, right? But behind closed doors or off air or out of the conversation, they go back to the opposite, very hypocritical. You have been one person that has stayed true to yourself since the day I have met you, without fail. Even when I have like been like, Jimmy, I need your ability to work right now. I got to do this, I got to do that. And I'm like, but you need money. And he will literally be like, I forget how you used to say it. You'll probably know when I start to say it. Something about like, I can't remember what you said, but it's something about like, if there's a will, God will, something like that.
Oh, if it's God's will, it's God's bill.
Yeah, something like that. And I would be like, yeah, but bro, you need to work.
Yeah, totally.
So I do respect that about you. You have been extremely, like I said, you've been true to yourself since I've met you. And that's something I think that is a powerful testament to your character and what you truly believe like God placed in your heart. Because there's a difference between like saying, we just all experience it, and I'm not jabbing at anybody, but I kind of am, The California exodus during this COVID season, right? Yeah. God's calling me to leave. God's doing this. God told me to go to Arkansas. God told me to go here. God's calling me. I'm not saying God didn't call you.
Totally.
But from a lot of the conversations I've had with people that have gone through that, there's no way God was calling them to do that. Maybe. Sure. I can't judge. But again, I'm a person that looks at things from like the big view, and when I start to see all these things line up, I'm like, was that God calling you, or did you like smash a door open with a front kick?
Right.
And that's how your door opened. And again, nothing wrong with it.
100%.
You got to go through whatever you want to go through.
Yes.
But for you have been true to that since day one.
Ah, praise God. Thanks, bro. Yeah. No, it's I think I like the title of this podcast too, The Fight Within. I think that's every day, as long as we're on this side of eternity, we got trials, we got problems, we got stuff going on in life that Jesus said, in this world you will have troubles, but take heart, I've overcome the world. And so, even if everything on the outside is pretty, you could still have something so internal like that fear I was going through. It wasn't like I was in poverty or like I didn't have food to eat or like, just stuff was, it was all happening on the inside. And I think what was beautiful though was in those years, that trial and that the fear that I was working through and different, even to this day, trials, pressures and different things. It's like, it's all a fire that either can make you or break you. It could refine what's in there and actually cause it to shine brighter, or you hope that it melts away stuff that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So.
But were you like fully reliant on God, or like what other ways what other tools did you use to overcome everything you were dealing with internally?
Yeah. Relating back to that day when that year when a lot of things shifted for me. There was similar to actually how I first met the Lord in my room when so 2013, all this stuff went down, but in 2008 is when I had an encounter with God, the very first one that was like super strong and powerful and saved my life. That they're very correlated because it wasn't like I had a lack of community or a lack of friends to talk to, or like, I actually felt like I had an abundance of resources, but like both of those times, the similarity was, the common factor was that no external thing or even right advice or good things people were saying that were all true was fixing like a God-sized issue. It was like, no, I actually genuinely need a touch from God. Like I need to hear him. Like this is a defining moment right now. So I would say in that year in 2013 when everything shifted, that was there was a good chunk of that where it was purely just God and I in prayer. Like where it was like, I think there's a scripture in the Old Testament that talks about King David, and when everything was going wrong around him, it says David strengthened himself in the Lord. And that idea of like, I had people to talk to who are all helping me, like saying the right things, and then I had other resources and things, but like there was just something not clicking that felt like that release or that breakthrough, internally. And so a lot of it, I would say, just came from when the door was shut, no one else around, just God and I in a room, talking to him, being real, pouring my heart out. That's the other thing I love is like, I got a lot of joy, but it says those who sow in tears will reap in joy. So I would say I've sown a lot in tears. I've sown a lot in fetal position on the ground. Oh my gosh, God, I don't know what's going on in my life. This is one of the scariest times of my life. I don't know what to do. I've had a lot of those times. And so, but a lot of that's happening behind closed doors. And so, but that's the beauty of it too, is I would say that intimacy with God is really what got me through it, and keeps me through it. After that too, though, I was like, God, I don't want to just be a Lone Ranger guy that's just running on my own, him and I, and just being like, I'm good with just God and I don't need anyone else. I think in a relationship with him, you want relationship with his people, So
sure.
I was like, God, plug me into family, and that's when actually some of my best friends, I still run with them to this day since then, actually, the homies I met back then. But yeah.
That's dope. It's good to have this conversation because I'm sitting here, really trying to soak it in. And I think a lot of times, and I've said this in the past, but as dudes, we don't communicate. It's easy for me to like, oh, Ben is a badass choke, man, it's so cool. But to like have a real genuine conversation, and to one feel comfortable enough to sit down in a room with two other dudes, and open up and have an honest conversation and really let your guard down is really, really. I can't use the word you just used. Admirable. I don't know, concussions. And so, yeah, it's different. Yeah. It's cool because it shifts your mindset into thinking like, okay, like we've said things in the past where it's like, don't feel sorry for yourself, just make a choice, all that stuff. Cool, but not everyone's wired that way.
100%.
It's easy for me to look at what I'm going through and be like, cool, I'm gonna go to the gym. Like I'm gonna go work this out and then refocus, whatever, you know. Or like when you have a goal, like Ben right now has been training his butt off because he has a goal. He has something that he wants to accomplish. I think it's good to focus on that, But there's guys at different stages and different struggles, and so to sit here, thank you is what I'm trying to say. A long-winded thank you is for opening up because I think guys need to hear this.
It's good.
It's not to feel sorry for yourself, not to be like, look at what I did and what I overcame, just so that people know like there's different ways to overcome these things.
It's good.
There's different ways to talk about it, and it's good. Like I said, I've always said, and I'm a big believer in the podcast where it's like it's therapeutic even for me.
It's awesome.
Even if I shut up, there's been episodes where I'm quiet the whole time where I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really cool.
Wow.
And you're just listening.
Wow.
You know? And so
you're soaking it in.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing too is like we're not obviously a Christian podcast.
Yeah.
Nor would we would never want to be that because then you kind of already just like turn so many people off, right?
Yeah.
As Christians, we need to be in there and surrounded around other people that are not like us.
100%.
I mean, we need us.
Yeah.
But we don't want to just be in a room full of Christian people. What the heck good is that, right? Yeah. So I think too, just to kind of throw this out there, in taking a piece of your story, like whether you're a Christian or not, it's really okay to not have your path like set out in front of you. Because there are so many times where we've had a lot of like high level successful people on here, and then we've had people that have no clue what they want to do, or we've had people like you're pursuing an artist route. We didn't even talk about it, but Jimmy's also like a content creator. He helps me with all my stuff. So if you need extra stuff like that, definitely hit him up. But I just want to make people aware that like it's okay to not have things put together.
Yeah.
Whether you're a Christian or not, whether you believe that God has a plan for you or not. Obviously, we three in this room right now believe genuinely that God has a path laid out for all of us and each one of you too. But if you don't believe that, 100%. That's fine. Like you can be 35 and have zero clue of what you're wanting to do. But the difference I will say is, and this is what I want people to take away, is if you don't know what you want to do, don't like self-loathe. Figure out what you want. Figure out what that next step is. Figure out how to create some form of momentum so you cannot be stuck. Like, because no matter if you're a Christian, you're not a Christian, you're atheist, you're Muslim, whatever you are, you have to get unstuck.
100%.
And so that's what I want people to take away. And listening to your story, Jimmy, is like, you clearly are rooted in your faith. God has a plan and has his hand over your life. For those that don't know that, start forging your path.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would encourage too, on top of that, like, I know I am saying a lot of Bible stuff, a lot of spiritual stuff. I did give Manny and Ben a fair warning that it was gonna get pretty spiritual, because talking about the music I'm making and everything and the creative side of me, it's all connected to my life in the spirit. So, but I would say too, if none of that Christian stuff is clicking for you, that like my first encounter spiritually with God. I didn't grow up spiritual. Like, I didn't grow up in the faith. Like,
I'm the only one that did here.
That's crazy. Whoa, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I had no grid for it. I had no context for it. And I was, yeah, I mean, literally not a Christian bone in my body. Like, I I just remember I got to a place where I was so stuck. It was freshman year of high school. I was just got out of this relationship. I was so depressed, suicidal. I would literally at school like walk off campus, walk home, and call my mom and say, "You gotta call me out or whatever. Like I'm off campus." Like I was down and out. I was playing sports back in the day. I remember, I'll never forget this. We were watching tape after a game, and this was in the peak of my depression. And I was playing offensive line, and I get off the line, and I literally, like, getting off the line, I would stand up and do this. And then, like, almost like I surrender, kind of like get off the line, do this, and everyone run past me. I remember in front of the whole team, we're watching film, the coach pauses it, and he goes, "Cheo!" And he shouts, he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was sitting in the back. I had no defense. I had nothing to say. I was so depressed. I literally was just like, yeah. And so the whole team leaves, and he's like, "Bro," I remember that coach talking. He's like, "What is going on with you?" He's like, "What is the matter with you?" I was like, "Coach, I got nothing to say. I'm so depressed right now." I was like,
You told him?
Yeah, I was like, I was in a place of such raw vulnerability that I never experienced in my life. Like as a 15-year-old kid, I was just like, I have zero purpose. Because in that day, the purpose I had built my life on was like that relationship I was in. I was like, this is it. I found my reason for being alive. I'm alive, you know? So as soon as that ended, it was like the foundation's gone. It's like, why do I go to school? Why do I work? Why do anything? Like, why be here? Like, I don't even know what happens after this life. Like, why not just pull the plug? I'll just go float in darkness. I don't know. I like literally that's where my thought process was. And so I was in such a place of being stuck.
At 15.
15. Oh, yeah. And I had a couple situations, you know, where I was really close to pulling the plug. But I remember it was in that darkest moment. Again, like I said, not a grid for anything Christian, not a grid for any Bible, spirituality, none of it. No grid for it. I just remember sitting in my room all by myself thinking, I'm so stuck. I'm so down and out. I don't know if, so this is for anybody who feels like they want to forge a path, but they feel like they just can't. If they feel like you feel stuck beyond stuck beyond stuck, that's like where I was. And I remember in pure hopelessness, I was just sitting there, and there was a day where I was like, maybe today's the day I just go and we'll just see what happens. But I remember it was so intense. It was like light and darkness in my room. And I remember I had no grid for any of this, but it felt like I was hearing one voice that was like, do it, do it, do it. And another voice that was like, Jimmy, there's so much more for you if you stick around. Like, trust me, you know. And I couldn't. It was like weird, like standing at the doorway of death like that. I was just like feeling all this stuff that I never felt before. Run into my room, shocked, like that I even got to that place to be that considering that moment. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, hold on, what the heck is life all about then? I was like, if I'm still here, what's this all about? I was like, there's like a hole in my heart and I don't know what to fill it with. I was like, is it money? I was like, no, the richest people in the world, like they're still not content. They're still chasing for more. I was like, is it another relationship? No, because people aren't perfect and that's not it. I was like, is it partying? All my friends are partying, getting drunk, drugs. Is it drugs? I was like, no, they tell me how depressed they are. I was like, no, I was like, dang it. So I was like thinking through it and I was like, whoa, maybe God is real. I was like, I've never really considered that. I was like, and if he's real and he made everything and I'm in this room by myself, he could probably see me and hear me. I was like, and so from pure simplicity, no grid, no spiritual background, no degree and nothing, I just was just like, okay, God, I said, I need help. I said, and that was it. I was like in that place of being stuck and I was like, I need help. And I could wait, but I'm done and I don't know what else to do. I just need help. And I waited, and I kid you not, and that's where it got real wild, was it felt like somebody walked into the room and hugged me. I started to wail and weep out of joy for the first time, hope. Like all of a sudden, it was like somebody injected me with hope. And I didn't know why. I invited myself to church with my family, and they were like, they were weirded out. They were like, dude, Jimmy invited himself to church. Like, this is weird, something's going on. So anyways, I just want that encouragement to be there too. If you are listening to this, like Ben's saying, yeah, I'm thankful you guys have me on, and I know it's not a Christian podcast. I couldn't help but talk about the music I'm making and how it's tied into these really real encounters with God. And if you are in that place where you're just, like forge the path. And if you feel like you're stuck beyond stuck,
reach out to one of us.
yeah, that's it. Let's go.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I say, and we'll tag Jimmy in it. His music's on Spotify. Is it on Apple?
All
All
of
of
the
them.
streaming.
It's
Yeah.
Jimmy Cheo,
Mhm.
and we'll put it in the comments also. But
yeah, in the description. and
Manny, you got
comments.
anything else?
No, man, I'm good.
All right. Thank you,
Really good
Jimmy.
Dude, thank you
episode.
guys.
Well, where can people find you? Social.
Yeah, what's your
website,
social? We'll
whatever.
tag it too, but if they're
At-
only listening.
At Jimmy Cheo. You can
Mhm.
find me on there. At Jimmy Cheo on everything else. Yeah,
Perfect.
That's it.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Another great episode, guys. And remember that everything was impossible till someone did it.